All right. 30 teams, 30 minutes. Solo on this one again. The Milwaukee Bucks. That's what we're going to go ahead and do today. The Milwaukee Bucks, big off season. You got Giannis to sign. So that came out a couple of days ago. So that clears up, the big discussion with them, will he or won't he? So now let's just talk about the team. So I thought that the loss of Bogdanovich because of the tampering and all that good stuff that it came associated with that was huge. I think there's going to be a big hole on that team. I thought that with him, you had the makings of a team with a real good five, with Bogdanovich potentially, Giannis, Middleton, um, Jrue Holiday, and then whoever you would put as your fifth guy. I just think, and that would be a hole. I think that would be easy to fill. Now you have DiVincenzo, and he could become a better player. So we'll see what ends up happening to him. But I think the loss in him was big. I mean, it all still depends on Giannis. If he improves as a player, I've heard talk of, he's focused on free throws and post. And I'm one of the people, I guess, would zig instead of zag on this one. I know a lot of people, lauded that move and think that the focus on 3-point shooting is too much. But I think the true greatness of Giannis is when he has that head of steam coming downhill. And, attacking from the post, especially in this NBA, with the amount of double teams that can come from, especially if it's not something that you're doing now, it's something that he's learning his seventh, eighth year in the league. He's still a young player. Don't get me wrong. He can become a great post player, but passing out of the post, learning how to post at this age to have it be your bread and butter in a half court set, to me, is too much. That's why I think the focus on the 3-point shooting, and more even the 3-point shooting, the pull-up jump shooting. If he could walk into pull-up jumpers from the 2-point line, just anything that makes it so the defense gives him just a second of delay, a second, just an inch moving forward. He could use his length and his size and get to the rim and finish, with his, 2 steps, he's at the rim and then dunking. So I do think that he was actually right to focus on his jump shooting instead of his post game. Now we'll see. Maybe he can be, a low post monster. The guys that usually guard him are usually bigger players too. But the Miami Heat, they went with Crowder. They didn't even go with Bam on him. So we'll see if that his approach to the offseason and what he wanted to work on works for him or not. But I do think he does need to tighten up his jumper. He does need to tighten up his free throw shooting. His free throw shooting has precipitously gone down the cliff. I was actually watching a lot of his free throws, and I think it's where his head is. He generally misses his free throws short. And if you watch him, he kind of tilts his head back. I think, and I don't know, maybe that's, to overcompensate for him, not shooting it too hard. It doesn't seem like, the ball, he doesn't have the greatest touch. So maybe that was, his way of, compensating for that. But I think he leans back far too much on his free throws. So that would be one thing that if you're a Bucks fan to look back and see if his improvement on his free throw shooting actually comes to fruition. But I think that's a big key with it. Um, as far as the addition of Jrue Holiday, I've been a big fan of his. There's been a lot written about how he's not as good as a shooter as he is advertised. But I do think that his just feel of the game, his ability to run pick and roll with Giannis, and then you can have Giannis as the screen man go hard to the rim as a diver. I think Giannis has to be playing with momentum. But his use as a screen man, as a pick and roll man, he's obviously better than that at Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe, for his talent, he just lacks a feel for the game that really comes out in playoff series. So I think that would definitely help them. Now he's had some injury history. So it remains to be seen if he can stay healthy throughout the year. But he is definitely an upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. I'm interested to see how he fits into the system. Obviously, Eric Bledsoe is a great defender in his own right, but Jrue Holiday gives you the ability to be versatile. Jrue Holiday can guard ones and he can guard bigger wings very successfully as well. It crawls into them. This style of defense is to crawl into the guy. So I should just see what comes of that. Now this team, their rotation I think is a little bit short now. They signed Bobby Portis. They brought DJ Augustine, who I would like to see if he can play in the playoffs. Usually players like him, you can hunt him for possessions, especially in key situations. So we'll see how much, but he is a good shooter. And for all the attacks on Giannis, they've never really aligned him with a good shooting five. And first, someone bring up this equation, and it was interesting to me. Would you rather have Malcolm Brogdon over Jrue Holiday and all the picks that they gave up to get him? And it just reminds me when LeBron was on Miami, and I forget what year it was. It was the year Draymond Green got drafted. Miami didn't want to pay the luxury tax, and they sold the first round pick. And if you remember Miami towards the end of that Heatles run when they got bounced by the Spurs, they were playing pretty much 6.5 players. And I think a lot of times, there's a lot is put onto the loyalty of the player. And now people have talked about, well, players get traded too, and there's been a pushback on it. But I think also needs to be added to the equation is that a lot of these teams, they go cheap at times. And you can say, hey, they're the Bucks, they don't bring in that much money, but they invested in this team. I mean, when you bought the Bucks, you knew they were in Milwaukee. So I think that loss was huge and it was unnecessary. You could still be adding Holiday. There's no piece that they got from that Holiday trade that Malcolm Brogdon trade, signing trade that they couldn't be using right now to get Holiday. I mean, they went cheap, and I think it definitely hurts them because you can look at the roster, and it's just not as formidable as it looked last year. And the hope I'm guessing for the Bucks is that Dante takes a leap, but that's not a guarantee. And I like the look of him. He seems like he's fearless, and he seems like he's a player that could improve. But that's not nothing to you can't guarantee that. They have DJ Wilson, who's an interesting player. I think he's their draft pick, so maybe they're excited about him. I like the addition of Torrey Craig. He's a player that's a 3-and-D player for Denver, more D than 3. But we'll see if maybe he can improve his jumper. He has good size, so maybe he's that player. Because a lot to me with this team is their closing lineup. You have Giannis, you have Jrue, you have Middleton, and then is it Brook Lopez? Brook Lopez, a lot has been made that he improved last year defensively. He wasn't a problem in that Miami series, and I actually think they probably should have given him the ball more. So who's the fifth guy that you put next to them? Is it going to be Dante DiVincenzo, or is it going to be Torrey Craig? And then Chris Middleton. I mean, they were over a barrel. They had to max him. He's not a bad player. I mean, I don't think he's an all-star player. He won them that game. They won one game that series, I believe. And he won them that game. So, I mean, he can get hot. I think he's overcast as a number 2 player. But if Giannis is, if he does get a post game and he takes his game to supernova, even then, I don't know. I think it's just too much to ask one guy, especially in this league nowadays where a lot of the better teams have 2 stars. It's a lot to ask one guy. But when you have Middleton as your 2 and then Holiday as your 3, that might potentially be enough depending on how Holiday plays and how Holiday shoots the ball. And the matchups that they get as well. I think they match up well to a team like a Nets, defensively, offensively. So their most impactful player. Even before I get into that, I would like to discuss more coaching. Bud, you know, I do think that this season is also a referendum on him. He has this style of coaching where we do what we do and we don't change it. He has a style of coaching where I don't overstress Giannis, no matter if it's the playoffs or regular season. He's not playing more than 36, 37 minutes. And there's been a rigidity to his coaching that I think has definitely hurt them. So I think this is also a referendum on him. He does need to adapt. Um, so as far as their most impactful player, I probably think the player with the most impact on the team was going to be Jrue Holiday. What do they get out of him? Do they get a semi borderline all-star level player who shoots it at a higher clip? Because if they do, then a pick and roll game with him and Giannis in the clutch. It's nice on the side note that this is a new Bucks team. I don't think they're going to be the regular season monster that they've been before, but it's nice to see them go through growing pains, and it's not okay. We're just waiting for the playoffs, and let's see what happens this time. There is some calluses that can be gained during this regular season. Can Giannis, and Jrue Holiday start to work on a pick and roll chemistry? The bench, Dante, stretching himself and seeing if there is a level that he can ascend to, because that lack of bench scoring is pretty obvious. Is DJ Augustin going to be someone who could play in the crunch time? What is your crunch five? I do think that you do need to inject some, life and some newness into the team. I think things had begun to get stagnant. You take it, for example, like the Lakers. They've added so much to that team that even though they're the defending champion, there's a lot of guys on the team that are looking to prove themselves. A lot of guys that are looking to see what they can, win a title there. So there's going to be hunger there that's just not in other places. And before I forget, Bobby Portis, that's another player I'm interested in. I've been a big fan of Bobby Portis's game. He's had some really good offensive games in this league. I do think this is going to be the most serious, highest level of basketball that he's played. So we'll see if he can take up the challenge. But I do think that he's a bucket getter. So I'll be interested to see how they use him. Are there lineups that he plays with Giannis? Can he take Brook Lopez's position in the closing lineup because he's a little bit more athletic? He can get out and switch on guards and things of that nature. So I'm interested to see what he does as well. And he's dabbled in shooting threes. So, there's some interesting. This is a new team, a new field. So I'm interested in seeing that. The most impactful player, like I said, is Jrue Holiday. Can he ascend? Does he become a consistent pick and roll maven for them? The most intriguing player is Dante. Dante has a lot of skills. Comes from that Villanova system where the players hasn't really been a breakout star from that system, but he has a fearlessness and a competitiveness that I've seen in games. We'll see if that translates to him taking the leap this season. Like I said, a lot of the younger players in this league, the culture of this league has now become off-season work. What are you doing to improve your game? Showing your workout videos. So I think he is the upside player, the young upside player on the team, definitely. So their opportunities, I don't know. It all depends on Giannis and Crew. I mean, I think they're good enough if, there's leaps taken on Giannis's side and Dante's side that they could possibly get to the NBA Finals. I could see them flaming out early again, too. I do think that this team is a little top heavy. And if you don't, those things that I'm talking about with Bobby Portis and Dante, if those things don't come to pass, very top heavy. But Giannis has committed. So it doesn't have the feel as it did walking into the season as a make or break season. He's still a pretty young guy. So a lot of pressure on him, but it just depends on the maturation of his game. I think a lot of it depends on him becoming better as a player. There's gaping holes in his game, and I do think that he needs to address it. But his worth ethic has never been questioned, so there's no reason to believe that he won't. So my prediction, I'll probably predict them. If they play the Nets, I'll probably pick them versus the Nets. So probably conference finals. I could see them in the conference finals versus my pick right now is Philadelphia. I could see that. So that is the Bucks. 15 minutes. Once again, do 15 minutes when I'm solo, 30 minutes when I'm with Obi. During the season, we're going to break down every team. If you have a question, comment, definitely leave it at the bottom. We respond to all the comments. Definitely hit subscribe. If you have a friend who has an obscure team, if he's if he's still a Knicks fan, if any of those are still walking around, we're going to do every team. So subscribe, get it. It's 30 teams, 30 minutes.